dependent on power. We needed to eat, we needed to work, and we needed to communicate. The electrical system that we utilize today is good, but there are several problems. For example, the rate of emissions is far too great for the amount of power which we receive. A lot of energy is lost in these emissions, and these emissions need to be recycled. The majority of the power which we utilize comes from a process known as hydrocarbon combustion. As fuel is burned, the emissions are sent through an exhaust pipe and into our environment. Hydrocarbon combustion emits many chemicals. Amongst these chemicals are CO2, SO2, HCI, ditoxins, metals, and carbon monoxide. There are technologies available today which eliminate some of these emissions. Two examples are an industrial scrubber and a baghouse. Although these do clean the emissions, they do not eliminate them. If we could substantially reduce emissions released from these plants, a greater number of plants could be built. Existing power plants could produce more power. Closed power plants could be reopened. The Encapsulator was designed with two ideas in mind: local power, cleaner air. The Encapsulator also offers technologies that could be utilized by today's nuclear reactors. Nuclear reactors could utilize the Encapsulator in the dry ice aspect. By submerging cooling rods in water which has been cooled in dry ice, greater control can be taken over the internal temperature of the reactor. This will also reduce the temperature of the water which the reactor sends out into our environment. Because of the way we have designed nuclear reactors, the waters which they emit into the environment are heated. Thus, they heat the environment around it. Endothermic and exothermic chemical converters are utilized in the system to convert chemicals into new compounds. The Encapsulator's catalytic converter utilizes heating coils. This is used in the endothermic process. The exothermic process utilizes dry ice to pre-chill chemicals. These chemicals are sprayed into the chemical treatment chamber. This greatly reduces the kinetic energy of the compounds. The Encapsulator is powered by a generator. The generator's emissions are recycled through the unit. One of the keynotes about this unit is that it can be retrofitted into many existing smokestacks. Once retrofitted, the furnace could be utilized to burn garbage, tires, coal, oil, or it could burn the chemicals which the Encapsulator has already produced. Probes are distributed throughout the entire unit. These probes deliver constant information to the control panel. At the control station, the gases are analyzed. Temperature and pressure are all taken into account. Desired end chemicals are determined, and the computer determines which catalyst to utilize. The catalyst is put into the CCC unit or sprayed directly into the chemical treatment chamber. Untreated gas refers to emissions delivered from the furnace through the smokestack. The heat created within the furnace is utilized to create steam. This in turn turns the turbines which create electricity. Steam is not the problem. The problem lies in the emissions from the fire. These emissions contain dangerous chemicals. Special care must be taken when burning garbage or other unpredictable chemicals. In these cases, oxygen can be extracted from outside. By adding oxygen, we increase the temperature of the fire. The hotter the fire, the fewer the emissions. At this point, the emissions from the furnace are delivered to the first chamber through a flue. As the chambers fill with off-gas, valves open. This allows the emissions to enter second, even third or fourth chambers. The greater the emissions, the more chambers can be utilized for treatment. The spray's compound, temperature, speed, and pressure have all been predetermined from the computer analysis. The sprays are passed through coils which have been submerged in dry ice. By cooling the chemical sprays, we can reduce the heat and kinetic energy of the emissions. As the emissions enter the treatment chamber, a sensor determines the chemical makeup of the emissions. The computer analyzes these emissions and determines the appropriate measures. The system is equipped with pre-packed chemical catalysts. These catalysts have been computer designed. After all the data has been entered into the computer sends the information to the chemical control system. The chemical control system handles the quantity, speed, pressure, and temperature of the aerosol sprays. The refrigerator unit is compiled of coils submerged in dry ice. By supercooling the chemicals, we are able to have greater control over the emissions. Because emissions have a volatile nature, they have been sent out into the atmosphere. When the treatment sprays have reached certain temperatures, they pass alongside the chemical treatment chamber and into the aerosol sprays. The computer determines which chemical compounds are added, at what volume, at what speed, at what pressure, and at what temperature. The computer will also determine at which point the chemical treatment process is completed. Furnaces with greater emissions will require greater number of treatment chambers. Chambers can be stacked one on top of the other. After the treatment has been completed, the emissions are sent into the expansion tank. The expansion tank is an area where the gases are allowed to relax. Through expansion, kinetic energy is further reduced. The gases have already been scrubbed. The toxins have already been removed. Kinetic energy has been greatly reduced due to the cold spray. Compressors ensure that the air continues in a flow which is desired. There is a vent located at the top of the expansion chamber. In the event of a problem, this vent could be utilized. The encapsulator is also equipped with several intake valves. Both these could be utilized in the event that the unit needed to be flushed or if there was excessive pressure. As emissions pass through the molecular sieve, different molecules are removed at different sectors. They are then funneled into molecular reactors. In the reactors, they are further prepared for final product. In the reactors, the compounds are further prepared for consumer use. They can be utilized in many aspects. If a reactor's cooling rods were submerged in cool water as opposed to warm water, this would greatly reduce corrosion. As a result, the reactor would last longer and there would be fewer brownouts. The catalytic converter renders gases non-toxic. Pre-packed chemical cartridges are loaded into the catalytic converter. These cartridges are manufactured to produce different chemicals. As the volume reaches certain levels, the regulator is opened and the liquid passes down through an adsorbent filter. These filters assist in the cleaning process. Heating coils are utilized in the exothermic process. Heat aids in the chemical compound conversion. Upon completion, the remains are sent into a heat exchanger and burned.